Hello, everybody. This is Brett Davis Unleashed, coming to you from IQ Podcast in Coronado, California, at Attorney King Studios. I'm Brett Davis, your host, and I'm honored to finally get a chance to interview Cynthia Rathrock. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Well, you look like you're staying busy. I see you all over social media, everywhere. That's great. You're very active.
Well, I'm trying. I'm not used to the stay home all the time. Usually, I'm out traveling all around the world. So this is quite a big change for me, being in the house here.
Oh, I think it's just. I think it's a time for being reflective and doing maybe things that we normally wouldn't do because we don't stay home that much.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think right now every drawer in my house has been cleaned out.
So where do you call home?
I'm in California,
Okay.
Southern California.
Okay. And where are you originally from?
Pennsylvania, Scranton.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is a great place. I love it. It's what do they call it? Brotherly love. What's it called? Something of brotherly love, isn't it?
Scranton? What's Scranton called?
Philadelphia. I think Pennsylvania as a whole. Isn't there like
the city of brother? Well, Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love.
City of brotherly love.
Pennsylvania is the Keystone State.
Okay.
Scranton area is the pizza capital of the world. Old Ford. We
Right,
have a lot of
right.
names there.
Good food. Great area. So probably good foundation for you to start your life, and then now you're a world traveler. And I mean, my gosh. And when did you get involved with martial arts? Tell me about the type of martial arts.
Yeah, I started when I was young. I started when I was 13, and I was kind of always an out-of-the-box kind of kid. If it was something unusual or different, I wanted to try it. And at that time, not too many people knew what martial arts were. There weren't that many schools around. And, we're talking the late 70s. And my girlfriend's parents were studying Tung Soo Do at the Scranton Karate School, and they owned a health club. And on Sunday it was closed, and that's when they would clean all the equipment. And my friend and I would just go in the big exercise room and do rolls, and we'll do cartwheels and things like that. And then they would come out and they would start practicing their katas. And I was like, wow. I was like, that uniform's very cool. I like that belt, and that's what attracted me. And I was like, I want to go try that. It sounds different. So off I went to Scranton Karate School.
Now, how old were you when you started?
13.
Wow, that's a great age.
Yeah, good. Yes, it was. But actually, martial arts is good to start at any age. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I was like world champion, and I guess that, the younger you start, the better for that. But it still can happen to people.
Well, you look. You look like you're in phenomenal shape. You've been doing this for a long time. You've been consistent, and so you get into martial arts. You win championships. I mean, you love it because you're still doing it, and not everybody has that opportunity to do something that long that they love, do they?
Yeah, it's just been my whole life, martial arts. When I first started doing it, I was just doing it actually just because it was fascinating. Then it went into the fact that, wow, I could really learn how to defend myself. And then it went into competition. And then it went into my livelihood because I opened up a school and I started doing that. And then I went into movies, which I'm still doing movies, still teaching seminars. So it's just something that I will do like every single day while I'm here on this earth,
So you had your studio. That was your first time you opened a studio, and where was that at?
First studio was in let's see, where did I open it? It was in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yep. And then I opened one in Avoca, and then I went to California, and I lived in California, so I had a school there. I was partnered with George Chung. We had a school there, and from then I went on to do movies. And then when I came back, I moved to LA. So that was my history of martial arts schools.
That's cool. It's a whole different game than having one is a lot of work, but when you start getting into 2 or 3 or even more, it's a different animal, isn't it?
Yeah, and at one point in my life, I thought I was going to open up the school again, because that's one of the things I really do love doing is teaching people. It's like right up there on the top of the things that I like to do. And I considered opening up a school here, in California. And then, it just takes so much work. You have to be there every single day.
Right.
And still, I really enjoy like traveling abroad, teaching seminars, and I do like to do extreme travel. So I thought, well, that's something I can put on the back burner. Maybe some period way down the road in my lifetime, I might do that again.
Maybe they can use your philosophies, your likeness, and then you have somebody manage it, and you can just come and go as you want. But it takes a lot of trust to find that type of situation, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to find someone that I would feel that was, on my caliber to do the teaching and has a business mind, that you could trust. And, even you do find someone, you still have to be there pretty much maybe the first year, to get the business going, to get the people to come in. And then once it's established, you can come and go. But, yeah, that's what I would do, if I did, if I open up a school in the future.
Yeah, I can see, and I like you. I also love to teach, and I've been in fitness since I was 12. My first first job was with Jack LaLanne, and I learned. I got a chance to learn from somebody very interesting, and I still remember a lot of what he taught me. But you never lose that bug for teaching and helping people. It's always there.
Right. I guess other than teaching martial arts, the only other job I had, I was actually, when I got older, I went and I started teaching at a health club, and I started teaching, fitness. And then when I moved to California, I had a job in a studio called Move It, where I taught arobic classes.
I've heard of that place. I heard of Move It before.
Did you? Yeah,
I have.
It was really, really popular back in the day. I mean, they had so many people in that. Like, it was a turning point of going from, I think at the time women were doing jazzercise, and then they went into heavy duty aerobics. And, at that time I developed a program. This is even before Billy Blanks. I developed a program called self-defense aerobics. And, or it was defense aerobics. I think that's what I called it. And I was teaching it back then in the early 80s at Move It.
That's so cool. So you're a pioneer in that whole thing. And then here comes Billy.
Yeah, right. I wasn't lucky enough to get someone to come into my class and go, oh, I want to do an infomercial on this. This is great.
Everything is timing, right?
It is. No matter what you do, it's like, I guess it's just, being in the right place at the right time. And, that's how a lot of things happen.
Well, the thing is, so then when you came to Los Angeles, is that how your movie career started? Was it just one of those things you're teaching your martial arts and then the opportunity came up? Because LA's got a lot of opportunities in that area, right?
Yeah, it did. Well, actually, I was in Northern California, and when I came back from Hong Kong, I was still living in Northern California, and Golden Harvest wanted me to shoot China O'Brien 1 and 2 in Utah. So then I was going to leave Hong Kong because I was living there 3 years, and then I was going to leave California to come back here because while I was shooting China O'Brien, I had a contract with Sylvester Stallone to do a movie called The Executioner. So I moved to LA thinking I was going to co-star with him in this movie. And, then there starts my life in LA. But unfortunately, the movie never went.
Well, I mean, everything has its place. But, I mean, how many movies have you made now?
You know what? I'd say probably 60, maybe 60 plus. That's
a pretty impressive career.
Yes, I've done a lot. I'm currently working on a film called Huntress, and where production is stopped for a while until we're free of the coronavirus. But then we'll get back into shooting that one.
That's great. I look forward to seeing you complete that movie and watching it. And so you've done these. Do you do producing and directing also? Screenplay?
No, I haven't done that. I haven't. I've been like a associate producer. I don't feel that I will go into directing because that's a whole another ball game, doing that. But I do see in the future maybe like producing my own projects. I have I want to do a documentary on my life, and would be, the producer on that. So that might step me into the other, be behind the camera as well as in front of the camera.
Very interesting. So when do you think that'll happen?
When I get the money raised for it. I mean, we thought about doing Kickstarter, and we keep putting the components in place, but it's I think once we get the money together to do it, then we will shoot it.
So you've got your crew in mind, your director, because documentaries are interesting.
Yes. We have that all in place, and the format of what it's going to be, and it's going to be different, not your typical documentary. I think it's I want it like if everything you're watching, it's either inspirational, motivational, or funny. So I want to have a real good effect. Like instead of people going, oh, how great Cynthia is, I want them to tell something funny or something that helps them in their life. So a little bit different than my vision than your typical biography. But of course I want to also go in on the fact that when I was doing martial arts, I was coming up in a man's world. Women
Right.
weren't really doing martial arts then, and through competition, and a lot of the competitions, like especially in weapons, they had to compete against the men because they didn't have a women's division. And being one of the first women on the cover of a karate magazine, breaking down all those barriers. So I want to also touch on that, which is motivational for people, that if you set your mind on something to do and you don't give up, you just keep going for it, you're going to achieve your results.
So the thing I find fascinating about you, and I've followed you for a long time, and you're always so kind. When Sarah and I always bump into you at different events. The last event was at over in Atlantic City, and that was a great event. And you're always so kind. But so where does this drive in this passion for all these varieties of things that you do? Because I mean, there's some similarities in the fact that you start something, you have a goal. You put in the time, the work, and then, you recreate and do other things. But you seem to be very passionate about everything you do, and you also seem to really take, lead, and you go forward after everything you want. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I definitely, there's two things. One, I think it comes from my martial arts training because, it was very hard when I first started. And, like anybody, doing something hard, I wanted to quit. But it taught me, I remember one day my instructor said, quitters are losers. And I felt he was talking directly to me. So that always was instilled in my mind that no matter how difficult something is, you just keep a positive attitude and you just keep moving forward, being positive, then, things will get much better, which I've kept that, my whole life, and no matter what I've done. So nothing has deterred me from doing it because of its difficultness. That, and then also, I'm a very spiritual person, and I am thankful for life. I value every day as a gift from God, and I try to keep myself happy, keep myself positive, and do the things I really love to do. And I try not to let negativity, bring me down. I mean, obviously, sometimes, we all have our trials and tribulations that we have to overcome. But I think, I do things that I love, and that's where my passion is. And I try to, keep on that kind of line, and that keeps me happy and positive, and just enjoying life.
Yeah, I mean, it comes across in everything you do. And then, so when did you decide to climb Mount Everest? Where does that come from?
Well, remember I said I was always that out of the box kind of person, and I still am. And I like to do things that are beyond the normal. And I thought, wow, how many people get to climb up? Well, actually, I didn't do the summit, but I went to base camp, which is pretty treacherous in itself, probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And after I stopped competing and doing, movies consistently, and then I had my daughter, and then she grew up, and when she was a teen, I had to find something else. So I found extreme adventure that I like to do, something that challenges me mentally and physically. And I have a fear of heights, so I do crazy things like bungee jumping, skydiving, all
Wow.
that. And
Wow.
Everest was like a challenge for me, to I think it took like a little bit less than 2 weeks going up and down. And I tell you, it was when I was doing it,